Welcome to your own personalized deep dive. We're going to be diving deep into the world of miniature poodles, especially for you since you're thinking about getting one. And you gave us a really great mix of sources, YouTube videos, articles, some are personal stories, and some are more like historical stuff about the breed.
Yeah, it's kind of cool to see just how much information is out there, even on just one type of dog. Like, our whole goal today is to help you sort through it all and really highlight the unexpected things and those aha moments where you're like, huh, that's interesting and also like actually useful to know.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Okay, so let's jump right in with this first one, Moki the Poodle.
Yeah.
This is a YouTube video diary by a new miniature poodle owner. And honestly, I was surprised by a couple of things in this one. So first up, poodles being picky eaters. I always thought that was like a thing.
Right.
But Moki, he actually had some issues where he would refuse food.
Yeah, and they said that's actually pretty common in the breed.
Interesting. And then did you see that part where he totally freaks out every time his owners are about to leave?
Yeah.
They called it FOMO, fear of missing out. Apparently that separation anxiety thing, it's not just a puppy phase. It could be like a real thing for miniature poodles.
Yeah, it really makes you think about how crucial that early training and getting them used to being around other people and stuff is, even for a breed that's like known for being smart.
Yeah, FOMO in a dog though, that's kind of hilarious.
Yeah.
But also, oh my gosh, heartbreaking. Okay, so speaking of smart, Fenrir Poodle Show takes us way, way back into the history of poodles. Did you know that miniature poodles were originally bred to hunt truffles?
Yeah, isn't that interesting, those like expensive mushrooms that everybody's always trying to find?
I know. It's so funny to picture them doing that.
Yeah.
But I guess it makes sense when you think about it. Their size is perfect for sniffing them out without like crushing them, which could be a problem with the larger standard poodles.
Totally. They were like the perfect truffle hunting size.
Okay, so they go from truffle hunting to, get this, the circus.
Oh yeah, talk about a career change.
I know. What do you think that says about them as a breed?
I mean, that just shows how incredibly trainable they are. Like, they're so eager to please, which we'll talk more about that later. But yeah, they can really adapt to tons of different roles. And we actually see that today too, like in that Dr. Lindsay Butzer DVM video. She shows all these standard poodles doing agility and obedience, even working as service dogs.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that. I guess that versatility you mentioned, it really does apply to them no matter what size they are.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so speaking of the different sizes, I thought the 3 types of poodles and how they compare was really helpful. Like each size has its own little quirks, even when it comes to just the basics.
Uh-huh.
Remember you were saying how important housebreaking is to you?
Oh, yeah. Big time.
Well, apparently with a miniature poodle, potty training is usually pretty straightforward.
Yeah. But then it also said that with standard poodles, it can be a lot trickier because they're so much bigger.
It's funny how that works. I guess this is a good example of, like, yeah, it's good to know the general breed information, but you really have to think about the specific type you're interested in, which is what we're doing right now.
For sure. For sure.
So we've got to manage those expectations. Okay, and I know poodles are supposed to be hypoallergenic, but owning a standard poodle was a good reminder that you absolutely still have to groom them. Like those fancy show cuts you see, those don't just appear out of thin air.
Oh, yeah. No, they don't. Uncovering the magic of poodle beauty contests took us behind the scenes of all that. I mean, talk about intense. From the classic lion cut with the fluffy mane and to like the super, super intricate show cuts. It's a whole world.
It's like Dog World Haute Couture or something. And speaking of those amazing coats, you wouldn't believe all the colors and patterns they come in. Poodle colors, patterns, and disqualifiers blew my mind. Like, I knew about black and white, but there's apricot and silver beige, even brindle? I had no idea.
It's a good reminder that, like, those breed standards, and we saw this in the Poodle Wikipedia article too, they're really focused on like how the dog looks for shows. But individual dogs, they come in such a huge variety, which is really cool.
That is really cool. Okay, and this next source reminded me how much poodles are more than just pets. Like poodles in popular culture, they're movie stars, they're fashion icons, they're like cultural symbols.
Yeah.
Remember Georgette, that sassy little poodle from Disney's Oliver and Company?
Oh, yeah.
I loved her.
Totally.
Okay, last but definitely not least, poodles. What a unique breed. Had some really great reminders about the importance of health. They said finding a responsible breeder is so important to avoid some of those potential health problems that poodles can have. So we're seeing kind of 2 sides to the miniature poodle here. On one hand, you've got this intelligent, trainable, adaptable dog Sounds kind of perfect, right?
Hmm.
But then there's the potential for separation anxiety and the grooming and then those potential health issues.
Yeah, it's a lot to think about. It's about getting the full picture. Like every breed is going to have their pros and cons, and we're going to get into all of that. So actually, speaking of the health concerns, one that really stood out to me, I think it was from, yeah, Poodles. What a unique breed. It said that Poodles can be prone to getting certain blood disorders where their immune system attacks their red blood cells.
Oh, wow. That sounds really scary. Is that like a treatable thing?
It is, especially if you catch it early, which is why those vet checkups are just so important for any breed, but especially for poodles. And then they can also develop diabetes, just like humans.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, a healthy diet, making sure they get enough exercise, that's all really, really important. Being proactive is key.
Yeah.
It really makes you realize that, like, part of being a responsible owner is, knowing this stuff and staying on top of it. Speaking of staying on top of things, remember that owning a standard poodle mentioned how their teeth can be a bit of a problem.
Oh, right. They said something about needing to brush them like 3 times a week.
Yeah.
That's more than some people I know.
I know, right? And they can get ear infections really easily too. So like cleaning their ears regularly is super important. That's actually one of the things I really like about those YouTube videos. Like in Mookie the poodle, the owner actually showed how he cleans Mookie's ears. Super helpful.
Oh, yeah. That's rough.
Yeah, and then owning a standard poodle, they had a veterinarian on there, and she was giving all these tips on how to find a good groomer, which I thought was, like, insanely helpful,
Yeah.
especially for, someone like you who's new to the whole poodle world. But, okay, enough about upkeep. Did you see that fact in the Poodle Wikipedia article about their coat? That curly coat that makes them so recognizable?
Yeah.
It's all thanks to one gene.
Really? Wow. Genetics is so crazy.
I know. It's wild. And speaking of genetics, that article also talked about all those different colors and patterns that you're so excited about.
Oh, yeah. Poodle colors, patterns, and disqualifiers was like the holy grail for that. Apparently, almost any color combination is possible except for Merle and albino.
Which actually, that reminds me, that Merle pattern, that's not like a natural poodle thing.
Really?
Yeah, if they try to like breed for that, it can actually be really bad for the dogs. They can have a lot of health problems.
Yeah, they mentioned something about double Merle,
Yeah, that's the one.
like deafness, blindness, really sad stuff.
It is really sad, and it really makes you think about, like, looks aren't everything,
Totally, totally.
Like, a responsible breeder should really be thinking about the dog's health first and foremost, not just, like, what looks cool or whatever. And that actually reminds me of, we were talking about those elaborate show cuts earlier with the, like,
yeah,
the shaving and the poofs and all that.
uncovering the magic of poodle beauty contests. Yeah,
That's the one. I mean, seriously, those groomers are, like, artists.
I know, right? Like that Continental clip with the shaved hindquarters and then those little poofs.
I know.
It's so extra, but I kind of love it.
It's very high fashion.
It is.
Yeah. And then there was the English saddle clip.
Oh, yeah.
Have you ever seen that one in person?
No, I don't think so.
Oh my gosh. It's like, okay, well, it's similar to the Continental clip in that the hindquarters are like totally shaved. But like the name suggests, the English saddle clip has this like defined saddle of hair over the back. It's really cool.
Oh, that does sound very cool.
It's like they're wearing a little fur coat.
I love it. Okay, so now I'm thinking, though, like, what's it like for the dog, right?
That
Is it stressful for them to have to go through all of that? Is it really just for us and, like, our enjoyment?
That's a really good question, and one we should like definitely think about. Maybe we can circle back to that later.
Yeah.
But for now, I kind of want to go back to the whole water retriever thing for a minute.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, it's easy to forget that they were originally bred to, work in the water.
Totally. Like from that
Yeah.
Poodle Wikipedia article, right? That was a huge surprise. Like, I never would have guessed.
Right. And the 3 types of poodles and how they compare made a really good point about that, too. Like, it said that the different sizes actually have different exercise needs because of it.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so standard poodles, they still have a super strong instinct to be in the water, and they need a ton of activity.
Which makes sense. Like, they were literally bred to do a job.
Exactly.
Okay, so I'm thinking, you mentioned that you're a pretty active person, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
So a miniature poodle might actually be a really good fit for you.
Yeah.
Like, they don't need as much intense exercise as, like, a standard poodle does. Walks, playtime. That's usually enough to keep them happy.
Yeah, for sure. Like,
Right.
that's a good reminder that it's really all about, like, finding that compatibility between you and, your future dog.
Absolutely.
And speaking of compatibility, You know, you were saying that training is something that's really important to you.
Yeah.
Well, remember in the Mookie the Poodle video, he was like kind of a nut sometimes, like freaking out about being alone and then like going crazy with excitement outside.
Oh, yeah. Does it happen with all miniature poodles?
Not necessarily, but poodles, what a unique breed.
Yeah.
Said that like early socialization and training, that's just crucial for this breed. Like they're super smart, which is awesome, and they want to please you, but that also means that they need you to like show them the ropes early on.
And they need a patient owner, right?
Yeah.
Because that source mentioned that they're really sensitive to like your tone of voice, and they don't respond well to like harsh punishments or anything.
Yeah, for sure. Like positive vibes only with these guys.
Positive reinforcement is key.
Yes, like it's all about building that trust. And speaking of incredible things that poodles can do, did you see that part in I think it was Poodles in Popular Culture about how they're like not just pets, like they're like stars.
Oh, yeah. The fashion icon.
Yes. The movie stars, the whole 9 yards.
They're like the Beyonce of the dog world.
Literally.
And they've been around for it. That article even said that poodles were like super popular with European royalty.
Oh, yeah, like way back in the day. So cool. Speaking of cool, or maybe not so cool, remember in the 3 types of poodles and how they compare? They talked about those teacup poodles.
Yeah. The tiny ones?
They're not actually officially recognized by like the big kennel clubs.
Really? Why not? They're so cute, though.
I know, but that's actually kind of the problem. Breeding for like that extreme miniaturization, it can actually be really bad for their health.
So it's like, just because you can breed for something doesn't mean that you should, basically.
Exactly. Like ethical breeding, it really should be about the dog first and foremost, you know?
Dang.
Okay, and while we're on the topic of health, remember how we were talking about those potential health concerns earlier? There's actually one we didn't get to that I think is worth mentioning. IVDD.
IVDD. What's that?
It stands for intravertebral disc disease.
Okay.
Yeah, poodles, what a unique breed, explained it. It's like a back problem that can be pretty common in the smaller breeds, like toy and miniature poodles. So basically, those cushioning discs in their spine can like bulge or rupture.
Ouch. That sounds painful.
It can be, yeah. And in like really bad cases, it can even cause paralysis.
Oh, no.
Yeah, so it's definitely something to like know the symptoms of.
Yeah, like what kind of symptoms are we talking about here?
So things like if you notice your dog is having trouble jumping or going up and down stairs or even just walking normally, like if you notice any kind of sudden change in how they're moving, that's like a big red flag. Early detection is key.
Okay, so if I see anything like that, it's straight to the vet.
100%. Like, don't wait and see if it gets better on its own. And actually, speaking of things that can affect their mobility, those crazy show cuts that we were talking about,
Well, yeah.
we kind of have to talk about the ethics of all that.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Because uncovering the magic of poodle beauty contests, like, those cuts look amazing. But it does make you wonder, like, is it really fair to the dog?
Right. Like, is it all just for show? Well, the Poodle Wikipedia article actually said that a lot of those styles, they're actually rooted in the poodle's history as a working breed. Like those pom-poms and the shave areas that actually used to serve a real purpose.
Get out. Are you serious? Tell me everything.
Okay, so get this. Those pom-poms, they weren't just for looks. They were actually like strategically placed to help protect their joints and their vital organs from the cold water.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they were like little wetsuits.
That's so smart.
Right, and then the shaved areas, especially around their legs and their hindquarters, that was to help reduce drag while they were swimming so they could move through the water more easily.
Wow. That is incredible. So they really were, like, designed to be both fashionable and functional.
Exactly. Which I think is so cool. Like, it really shows the, like, thought and care that went into, like, developing this breed.
It really makes you appreciate those show cuts on a whole other level.
Right.
Okay, so we've talked about a lot of, like, potential downsides and health concerns and stuff.
Yeah.
But are there any, like, health upsides to poodles? Like, do they tend to, I don't know, live long lives?
Oh, that's a great question. And the good news is, yes. Poodles generally do live longer than a lot of other breeds.
Oh, good.
Yeah, poodles, what a unique breed, said that standard poodles, they typically live like 12 to 15 years on average.
Okay, so a pretty good lifespan. What about, like, the miniatures?
Okay, fun fact. Smaller dogs usually live longer than bigger dogs.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so miniature and toy poodles, they usually live to be around 13 to 15 years old, sometimes even older.
Wow, good for them.
I know, like obviously it's just an average, but still it's good to know that they have the potential to be with you for a good long time.
That is good to know.
And speaking of things that can like affect how long they live, poodles, what a unique breed. Mentions spaying or neutering.
Right, right. Which I'm planning on talking to my vet about. I know that it's like, obviously it's good for, helping to control the pet population.
Right.
But are there also like health benefits for the poodle itself?
That's a really good question. So for like female poodles, spaying can actually like really lower the chances of them getting uterine infections and mammary cancer.
Wow.
Yeah. And then for males, neutering can help prevent testicular cancer and certain prostate issues.
Okay. Yeah, those are some pretty compelling reasons to like really consider it.
Totally. Definitely something to like, have a conversation with your vet about for sure.
Absolutely.
Okay, so remember earlier we were talking about the Dr. Lindsay Butzer DVM video, and you were like so impressed with those standard poodles doing all those dog sports.
Oh, yeah.
Like the agility, the obedience, the whole...
They were incredible.
I know. Well, miniature poodles can excel in that stuff too.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Poodle Wikipedia specifically mention how well they do in like obedience trials. Like their trainability and their ability to focus.
Yeah.
It really comes in handy there.
And they're pretty athletic too. We saw that in the video.
Oh, yeah. They are little athletes. Like agility's another one where they really shine.
And they seem to love it.
Oh, yeah. You can totally tell. Like they're having a blast.
They're in their element.
Exactly. And it's not just like the physical stuff either. Like they're also really good at like more scent-based activities too, like tracking.
Fracking, like search and rescue kind of stuff.
Yes, exactly. So they use like their incredible noses and their problem-solving skills to like follow a scent trail. It's honestly amazing to watch.
That is really cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about how smart they are and how trainable they are. But I'm wondering, like, what's the training process actually like? Especially for someone like me who's like totally new to this.
That's a great question. And it's actually like kind of a fascinating topic. So remember how we talked about how poodles are consistently ranked as like one of the most intelligent dog breeds?
Yeah.
Well, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're like easy to train, which I thought was interesting.
Really? It doesn't.
It's kind of like a double-edged sword.
Okay.
So yeah, they're super quick learners, which is amazing.
Right.
But they also like get bored really easily if you're doing the same thing over and over.
Ah, okay. So you kind of have to like keep them on their toes.
Yes, exactly. Like they need mental stimulation just as much as they need like the physical exercise. And they actually like thrive on challenges.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so you got to make those training sessions like fun and engaging.
Okay.
Like think variety, lots of positive reinforcement,
Yeah.
celebrating those wins.
It sounds like they need an owner who's willing to get like really creative with it.
They do, but the good news is like if you're willing to put in the effort, they can learn some seriously impressive stuff.
Yeah.
Remember those poodles in popular culture, like doing all those amazing things in the movies and stuff?
Oh, yeah.
That's their potential right there.
That's amazing. It's kind of blowing my mind to think that like my future little miniature poodle could like potentially learn to do that stuff.
They totally could.
That's so cool.
It's really just about understanding how to like use their intelligence to your advantage during training.
Okay, so what's the secret? Like, how do I do that?
Okay, well, first and foremost, remember sensitive souls.
Right.
Like poodles. What a unique breed.
Mm-hmm.
Really emphasize that, positive reinforcement is the name of the game here.
Okay.
They love praise. They love rewards.
Got it. So like no harsh punishments.
No, not a good idea. Like it can actually like damage the trust you've built and make them less likely to like want to learn. So yeah, focus on rewarding those good behaviors. Keep those training sessions upbeat and fun.
Okay.
And you'll be golden.
Got it. Positive vibes only. But how do you like keep them engaged? Like I definitely don't want them to get bored.
That's where the creativity comes in. Like mix it up. One day it's basic commands. The next day it's like learning a fun trick,
Okay, yeah. Like what kind of tricks?
Oh my gosh, the possibilities are endless. You could teach them to shake, play dead, spin, fetch specific toys. You can even like get them into dog sports like, agility or obedience trials.
Wow. I had no idea that they could learn so much.
They're so smart. And the best part is they actually genuinely like to learn. Like they love pleasing their owners.
Wow.
It's like a win-win. Okay, so I kind of want to switch gears for a minute and talk about something that I know you were a little bit unsure about, the whole hypoallergenic coat thing.
Oh, right, yeah. That's a big one for me.
Yeah.
Because I remember Poodle Wikipedia kind of touched on it, but I feel like I'm still a little fuzzy on the details. Like, are they actually hypoallergenic?
Okay, so first of all, it's really important to know that no dog is 100% allergy-free.
Oh, so even poodles.
Even poodles. But here's the thing. They produce way less of a certain protein. It's this protein that actually triggers allergies in people.
Oh,
So
wow.
that makes them a really good option for a lot of people with allergies.
Okay, so it's their coat then. That's like the
Oh.
key here.
Exactly. Remember how we were talking about how they have that single curly coat?
Yeah.
It actually like traps the dander, which is what usually causes those allergic reactions.
Oh, so instead of it like shedding everywhere, it just stays in their fur.
Exactly. So basically there's just less of it floating around in the air.
That's amazing. So even if they're not like totally allergy proof, it sounds like they're still a really good choice for people with allergies.
Definitely. But
Yeah.
regular grooming still super important.
Right.
Because that's what helps like remove that trapped dander and keep those allergens under control.
Okay, so that makes those regular trips to the groomer even more important than I thought.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Speaking of those like stylish poodle clips,
Yes.
uncovering the magic of poodle beauty contests did not disappoint.
I know.
Should we talk about like the different types of show cuts?
Yes. I'm so down for that. Let's get fancy.
Okay, let's do it. So I think we got to start with the most like iconic one, the continental clip.
Yes, the one with the like the big fluffy mane and
Yes.
tail.
Yeah,
Oh my gosh, it's so dramatic.
I know. It's like the ultimate poodle do.
No.
It's definitely a statement. So you'll notice that with this cut, the hindquarters are like completely shaved.
Oh yeah.
Except for those like signature pom-poms on the ankles and the tail.
Right, right. And the face and the throat are like shaved really close
Yeah,
too.
exactly. And it just creates this like super elegant silhouette.
That's like the poodle equivalent of like a power suit or something. Okay, what about the English saddle clip? I remember that one sounded interesting too.
Okay, yeah. So this one is like similar to the continental clip in that the hindquarters are shaved, but like the name suggests the English saddle clip has this defined saddle of hair over the back.
Oh, so cute. It's like they're wearing like a little fur coat or something.
Literally. And
Yeah.
and just like the continental clip, the face and the throat are also clipped really short.
Okay, I'm adding that one to my list to talk to the groomer about because it sounds adorable.
It is super cute.
Okay, what about the puppy clip? I think Poodle Wikipedia mentioned that one too.
Oh, yeah. That one's a little bit more simple. They often use it for puppies who are under a year old.
Okay, so it's less about the drama and more about like just keeping their coat manageable while they're still little.
Exactly. Like with the puppy clip, they typically just trim the coat to a uniform length all over the body, often with like slightly longer hair on the head and the ears.
Okay.
It's a little bit more like understated and less,
Right.
over the top.
It sounds perfect for like a puppy who's still growing and doesn't need a whole like super fancy style.
Exactly.
Okay, so for those of us who are like a little bit more low maintenance, are there any like cut options for that?
Totally. The three types of poodles and how they compare actually highlighted the pet clip as being a really popular choice for owners who are like, looking for something a little bit more practical.
The pet clip. Okay, tell me more about this.
Yeah, it's sometimes called the sporting clip or the lamb clip, and it's basically where they just trim the coat to a shorter, even length all over their body.
So it's still stylish, but like not crazy high maintenance.
Exactly. So yeah, it's a great option if you don't want to be making like a million trips to the groomer.
Perfect. Okay, I have to say though, those show cuts are seriously intricate. Like the groomers who do that, they have to have mad skills.
Oh my gosh, for real. Uncovering the magic of poodle beauty contests gave me a whole new appreciation for like the artistry and the precision involved.
Right.
Like they're like the Michelangelo of dog grooming.
I know. Like their hands have to be so steady and they have such an eye for detail.
And honestly, it's not even just about the skill. It's like the passion they have for the breed. You can tell they really, really love what they do.
It makes you realize like how important it is to find like a really good groomer, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like someone who actually like knows poodle coats and like gets your vision for your dog.
Totally, totally. Speaking of like understanding the unique needs of poodles, I feel like we haven't even like scratched the surface of their history.
Oh, right. Because yeah, Poodle Wikipedia gave a good like overview, but I'm ready for more.
Get ready for a history lesson.
Yeah.
Because Fenrir Poodle Show takes us all the way back.
Hit me with those historical facts.
Okay, so buckle up. Contrary to like popular belief, Poodles didn't actually originate in France.
They didn't.
Nope. Their story actually starts centuries ago in
Huh.
Germany.
No way. I always thought they were like a French breed.
Nope. German, born and bred. Like, even the name poodle, it actually comes from the German word Pudel, or Pudelin, which means to splash in water.
To splash in water. Oh my gosh, that makes so much sense.
Right.
Like their whole water retriever background.
Exactly. The webbed feet, the water repellent coat, like their love of swimming, it all goes back to that.
Wow. I had no idea. Okay, so if they're German, then like how did they become so associated with France?
Okay, so that's where things get really interesting. So they became super, super popular in France. Like, everyone loved them, from like the aristocracy to everyday people.
Okay. What was it about them that the French loved so much?
I mean, they're intelligent, they're elegant, they're trainable. Like, they were the total package. People saw them as like the ideal companions. They were even performers.
Oh, wow. So their whole like journey to becoming like a cultural icon, that really started in France.
Exactly. Like, their presence in like French courts and salons, that really solidified their status as like a symbol of, sophistication
Right.
and refinement. And of course, we can't forget their starring roles in the circus.
Oh, yeah. Fenrir Poodle Show talked about that.
Yeah, like they were practically made for the circus ring. They've got the intelligence, the trainability, the dramatic flair.
They were born to entertain.
Totally. It's kind of wild to picture them like back in the day performing tricks and like walking tightropes, entertaining crowds.
Yeah, I know. From German hunting dogs to French circus performers, like their story is full of surprises.
I know, and it really doesn't end there. They've just continued to capture people's hearts and imaginations throughout history. And, they've evolved into the beloved companions we know today.
Speaking of beloved companions, we've talked about their temperament and how they're not as, like, prissy as some people might think. But what about that diva stereotype? Like, are they drama queens at heart?
Okay, let's just say that they're not afraid to express themselves.
Okay.
But dramatic might not be the most, accurate word.
Okay, so what's the real deal with poodles and, like, their dramatic tendencies?
Okay, think of it this way. They're highly intelligent.
Right.
And they're, incredibly in tune with their humans.
Right.
So they've basically mastered the art of communication, even if that means, a little pawing for attention or a few, dramatic whines to get what they want.
So those diva moments, it's really just them being, really good communicators.
Exactly. They're experts at reading their humans and figuring out, what works.
That's so funny.
Right. And let's be honest, who can resist those puppy dog eyes?
Not me. But seriously, it sounds like a lot of those diva behaviors, they can be managed with training and understanding their, their personality.
Absolutely. It's about setting those clear boundaries, being consistent with training, and just learning how to interpret their own little language. They're not trying to be difficult. They're just trying to tell you something.
It's like learning a whole new language.
Literally. And it's a language worth learning because it makes that bond between you and your poodle even stronger.
So even those quote unquote diva moments, those can actually be opportunities to build a stronger relationship.
Totally. It's all about approaching the situations with patience, understanding, and a sense of humor. Remember, a little drama can be fun, and poodles are definitely experts at bringing the drama.
I'm starting to think that those diva tendencies are kind of part of their charm.
I think so too. It's part of what makes them so unique.
Right.
And entertaining.
They keep things interesting.
They do.
Okay, so speaking of interesting, there's one thing that I'm a little nervous about, and that's nail trims.
Oh, yeah. The dreaded nail trim.
That's not the most glamorous part of owning a dog, but owning a standard poodle made it seem super important.
It is.
But I'll be honest, I'm a little nervous about doing it.
Totally understandable. A lot of dog owners, they get really nervous about nail trims. But I will say that poodles, what a unique breed.
Yeah.
Had some really good tips for making it a better experience for both you and your dog.
Okay, good. Because I need all the tips I can get.
Okay, so the biggest thing is to start early.
Okay.
If you can introduce nail trims when they're puppies,
Yeah.
that can really help them get used to it before their nails get super long and uncomfortable.
Right. So it's all about that early exposure thing we talked about with socializing them.
Exactly. And just like with training, positive reinforcement is your best friend here.
Okay.
Lots of treats, praise, maybe even like a favorite toy afterwards that can go a long way.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
What about, though, like, for dogs who are already kind of, like, scared of nail trims?
Yeah.
Like, is there anything you can do if your dog is, like, not really into getting their paws handled?
Yeah, I mean, patience is definitely key. You gotta like go slow and just get them used to the clippers or the grinder, a little bit at a time.
Right. So, like, starting with just touching their paws and giving them a treat, and then, like, slowly working your way up to actually, like, clipping.
Exactly. And using like really good quality clippers or a grinder that's like specifically made for dogs that can make a huge difference too.
Okay, good to know. It sounds like, yeah, with a little patience and the right approach, it doesn't have to be, like, a traumatic experience.
Yeah. No, not at all. And of course, like if you're ever unsure or like if you don't feel comfortable doing it yourself, don't hesitate to just like ask a groomer or a vet.
Right.
They're always happy to help.
Absolutely. Okay, so we've talked about their temperament and how smart they are and how much grooming they need. But what about, like, how well they fit in as family dogs?
Yeah.
I've always kind of pictured myself having a dog who's, like, really part of the family.
Oh, I love that. And the good news is that poodles actually have a really good reputation for being good with kids.
Oh, good.
Yeah, like poodles, what a unique breed. Really emphasize that.
Okay, that's good to know. But I'm guessing, like with any breed, that early socialization is, like, really key.
100%. Like if you can introduce them to kids of all ages when they're little, it helps them learn like what's okay, what's not okay, how to like interact safely.
Right.
And it's not just about like socializing the poodle either. Like it's also about teaching the kids how to, be respectful of the dog and how to like approach them the right way.
Right, so it's kind of like a two-way street.
Exactly.
The kids have to learn as much as the dog does.
Totally. And then obviously supervision is always like super important,
Right.
especially with little kids. It's just about like, making sure that everyone's safe and happy.
Absolutely. It really sounds like poodles can be, like, really incredible family dogs then.
They really can. But I think like with any breed, it's just about like really thinking it through and making sure that they're the right fit for your family and like how you live your lives.
Right, right. Speaking of finding the right fit, I know that we briefly talked about their bark before, and I think you mentioned that they can be prone to, like, barking a lot.
Oh, yeah. Mookie the poodle had a whole symphony of poodle barks in it.
I know. It's
Ah.
definitely a very, like, distinct sound, but is it, like, excessive? Like, I don't want a dog who's going to be, like, barking at, like, every leaf that blows by.
Right. It totally depends. Poodles, what a unique breed.
Yeah.
Said that, yeah, poodles can be prone to barking, especially if they're like bored or anxious or even if they just like want attention.
Oh, so it's kind of like you have to figure out, like, why they're barking.
Yeah, exactly. Like just trying to like get them to be quiet isn't going to really work. And punishing them for it is definitely not going to work. It could actually make it worse.
Right, right. So it's about, like, addressing the root of the problem.
Exactly.
Okay, so how do you do that? Like, how do you get to the bottom of, like, why they're barking?
Well, one thing that the three types of poodles and how they compare mentioned was that like if you can make sure they're getting enough exercise and like mental stimulation, that can really help cut down on the barking.
Right, because a tired dog is a quiet dog.
Exactly.
At least that's what they say.
And then of course if they're like anxious or stressed about something, dealing with that can help too.
Right. So if it's, like, a new behavior or if it seems really excessive, that's probably a good time to, like, maybe talk to a vet or, like, a dog trainer.
Totally. Like they can help you figure out what's going on and like come up with a plan.
Yeah, yeah. It's all about, like, learning to speak their language.
Right.
Even the barky parts. And speaking of learning their language, though, I want to talk about all those other, like, little sounds they make because they're so cute.
Oh my gosh. Yes. The whines, the whimpers, the little yips.
The little howls.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Mookie the poodle captured those perfectly. He was such a little drama king.
They are such drama kings, but it's so cute.
Yeah.
Like they're experts at communicating with their voices. And if you can like learn what those sounds mean, it can really help you figure out like what they need and how they're feeling.
So what's, like, the poodle dictionary say? Like, what are those little sounds? What are they trying to tell us?
Okay, so those like soft little whines they do, usually that means they want something, like attention or food. Maybe they need to go outside.
So it's their polite way of being like, excuse me, human, I require your assistance.
Yes, exactly.
What's so funny?
I know. Whimpering, though, that can sometimes mean that they're uncomfortable or that something actually hurts.
Okay, so that's our cue to be like, hold on, buddy. Are you okay? Let's figure this out.
Exactly, like they're trying to tell you something's wrong.
Okay.
And then, of course, there are those like happy little yips and howls.
Yes.
That usually means they're like excited or like they're anticipating something fun about to happen.
Like, ooh, is it walk time? Is it play time?
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly, like pure joy.
That's so pure. It's really incredible how much they can communicate without even, like, using words.
I know, right? And like the more you learn to recognize their own little language,
Yeah.
the stronger your bond is going to be.
That's beautiful.
It is.
Okay, so I want to shift gears for a minute and talk about something that I know is, like, a concern for a lot of potential poodle owners, especially people who, like, live in apartments and that space.
Right.
Because, okay, we talked about how miniature poodles are smaller than standards, but, like, are they actually cut out for apartment living?
That is the million-dollar question.
It is.
And I think, like, with most things when it comes to dogs, it depends.
Okay, so give it to me straight. Can my future miniature poodle hack it in an apartment, or are they going to be, like, bouncing off the walls?
The three types of poodles and how they compare seem to think that they can adapt to apartment living pretty well, but, like, there are definitely some things to keep in mind.
Okay, like what?
Okay, well, first of all, energy levels, right?
Right.
Like they might not need like a huge backyard to run around in, but they definitely still need you to like take them on walks and play with them every day.
Okay, so no slacking on those walks and playtime just because my apartment is tiny.
Exactly. And think of it this way too. Those walks and that playtime, that's not just about like getting their energy out. That's like mental enrichment for them too.
Oh, that's a good point.
Right.
Okay,
Right.
okay. I'm definitely down for that. What about the barking thing? Because, we were just talking about how they can be prone to barking.
Yeah.
That's got to be like a consideration when you have neighbors right next door.
Totally. Like you have to be a little bit more mindful when you're living in close quarters with other people.
Right.
And remember, poodles, what a unique breed. Mention that, sometimes they bark because they're bored or anxious.
Right, so you got to deal with those underlying issues.
Exactly. And like consistent training can help too. Like you can teach them, good barking etiquette.
Right, so it's not even about like preventing it completely.
Right.
It's about like teaching them like, okay, when is it appropriate to bark and when is it time to like chill out?
Exactly. And being a good neighbor is like part of being a responsible dog owner too.
Absolutely. This is true. Okay, it sounds like, though, like with like some careful planning and a little bit of effort, it's definitely possible for a miniature poodle to be like really happy in an apartment.
100%. It's just about like, figuring out that balance between their needs and your living situation.
I love that. Okay, I want to talk about one more thing that I'm a little bit like nervous about, and that's their coat. Owning a standard poodle mentioned that if their fur gets matted, it can be like a huge pain, literally.
Oh, yeah, the dreaded matted fur. That's definitely something that every poodle owner has to be aware of, no matter what size poodle they have.
Okay, so those beautiful, like, bouncy curls,
Yes.
they can quickly turn into like a tangled mess if you're not careful.
Oh, yeah. Like their coat needs to be, taken care of regularly.
Right.
And mats aren't just like an aesthetic thing either. Like
Oh,
they can actually be painful, and they can even lead to like skin infections and stuff.
Oh, no. Okay, so prevention is key. What's the best way to like keep those mats from happening in the first place?
Poodle Wikipedia recommended brushing like several times a week.
Okay, that seems doable. But what about like once those mats like rear their ugly heads?
Yeah.
Is there anything you can do?
Okay, Uncovering the Magic of Poodle Beauty Contests actually had some really good tips for that.
Oh, good. Okay, tell me everything.
Okay, so first of all, you gotta have the right tools, right?
Yeah.
Like a slicker brush and a metal comb. Those are like your best friends when it comes to getting tangles and mats out.
Okay, adding those to my shopping list.
Yeah.
But what about like for those really stubborn ones?
Okay, a good detangling spray can be like a lifesaver in those situations.
Yeah.
And honestly, if the mat is like really close to the skin or if it's just like not budging at all, go to a groomer.
Right.
Like it's better to be safe than sorry.
Yeah, don't want to hurt them.
Exactly. And just remember, like patience is key. Like if you try to do it yourself, just work slowly and gently.
Right. No ripping or tearing. It sounds like, with like a little bit of extra effort and the right tools, you can keep your poodle's coat looking like amazing.
Totally. Like a well-groomed poodle is a happy poodle.
I love that. Okay, so We've talked a lot about, like, their positive qualities, and we've busted some myths.
Yes.
But there's one more stereotype that I kind of want to address because I hear all the time about poodles, and that's that they can be kind of, well, dramatic.
Oh, the drama queen stereotype?
Yes, it's like a classic. But is there any truth to it? Like, are poodles actually as dramatic as people say they are?
I think, like any breed, they definitely have, like, their own quirks.
Right.
And their own, like, ways of expressing themselves, but dramatic might not be the most, like, accurate word.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more. What's the real story behind all those dramatic displays?
Okay, think about it this way. They're really, really smart. And they're incredibly in tune with their humans. So they've basically, like, mastered the art of communication, even if that involves a few, well-placed whines.
Right.
Or a well-timed paw to the leg.
So those, like, dramatic moments, it's really just them being, like, really clever.
Exactly. They're like little geniuses at reading their humans and figuring out what works to get what they want.
It's so funny. It's like they're training us.
Right. And let's be real, who can resist those puppy dog eyes?
Not me. But really, though, it does sound like a lot of those, like, quote-unquote dramatic behaviors, they can be, like, managed if you're, like, training them consistently.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Like, it's all about, setting those clear boundaries, being consistent with your training, and, kind of learning to understand how they communicate. Because remember, they're not trying to be difficult. They're just trying to tell us something.
It's like learning a whole new language.
Exactly.
The language of poodle.
Yes. And it's a language that's worth learning because it just deepens that bond that you have with them.
So, like, even those moments where they're being, like, a little bit, quote-unquote dramatic, those can actually be opportunities to, like, build a stronger relationship.
Absolutely. It's really just about, like, approaching those situations with patience, understanding, and a sense of humor. Remember, a little drama can be fun.
This is true. This is true. And poodles are definitely, like, experts at bringing the drama.
Oh, they're professionals.
They are. Speaking of, like, bringing the drama, let's talk about grooming for a second, because we talked about it a lot, and I know that those show cuts are, like, very extra.
Yes.
So is that, like, really the reality of living with a poodle, or is that another one of those, like, stereotypes?
It's true that those, like, perfectly groomed poodles that you see, like, in the dog shows and the movies, they might make it seem like, oh my gosh, these dogs need, like, constant pampering.
Wow.
But the reality is a little bit more, down to earth.
Okay, so tell me more. What's the real deal with poodles and this whole, like, high maintenance thing?
So while it's true that they do need regular grooming to prevent those mats and tangles.
Right.
And yeah, their curly coat can be a little bit more time-consuming than some other breeds.
Right.
It doesn't mean that they're, like, these demanding divas or anything. Like, remember, under those glamorous curls, they're still dogs.
Right.
And they were originally bred to work.
Right. It's like we keep coming back to those water retriever roots.
I know. They're not afraid to get a little mud on their paws. They don't mind, running around the park. Poodles, what a unique breed. Made a really good point about that. Like, they can be just as happy in, like, an active household as they can be, chilling on the couch.
So their whole, like, high maintenance image, it's more about, like, the grooming than it is about their actual, like, personality.
Exactly. And even the grooming, like, it's manageable. You were saying earlier how you're, like, a little bit nervous about the mats.
Yeah.
But if you're brushing them regularly and you're taking them to the groomer every once in a while. Right.
You can totally keep their coat looking fabulous without it, like, taking over your whole life.
That's a relief to hear. It sounds like high maintenance is another one of those, like, poodle myths.
It really is. And you know what? While we're on the topic of, like, busting myths, let's talk about poodles being picky eaters.
Oh, yeah.
Because remember Mookie the poodle? Mookie was, like, perfectly happy to scarf down his kibble.
He was.
He was not picky at all.
Not even a little bit. And the three types of poodles and how they compare, I think, also mention that, like, poodles aren't really known for being, like, super picky.
Right.
So where does that whole stereotype even come from?
I'm not sure. It's possible it's because they're just so smart.
Okay.
And, like, they're really aware of their surroundings, you know?
Right.
Like, they're quick learners.
Yeah.
So they might, like, have a bad experience with the food, and then they're like, nope, not doing that again.
Oh, so if my future poodle had, like, a bad experience with, like, one brand of food or whatever, they might be, like, hesitant to try it again. Totally. And
Yeah.
because they're so like in tune with their environment, if they're like stressed out about something, they might not want to eat as much.
Oh, okay. So it's really important to like make mealtime like a chill experience.
Exactly. Exactly. And like obviously finding a good quality food that they really enjoy,
Yeah.
that's like half the battle.
So it's really about like just being like patient and observant, I guess.
Totally. Like just like with us, their emotions can totally affect how much they want to eat.
Very true. Okay, so we've covered a ton of ground about miniature poodles.
We really have.
But I have to ask like one more question because you mentioned earlier that you think poodles could be a good choice for like a first-time dog owner. But I'm a little bit like nervous about like, am I ready for this?
Yeah. Totally. That's a huge decision. And it's definitely not something to like jump into without, thinking it through. Poodles, what a unique breed. Talked a lot about like how smart and trainable they are, but it also like really emphasized that they need an owner who's gonna like train them consistently, give them stuff to do, make sure they're getting enough exercise.
All right, so they're not like the kind of dog that you can just like leave at home all day and expect them to be happy.
No, definitely not.
Okay.
They need someone who's like really ready to put in the time and effort.
Right. So like for someone who's never owned a poodle before, what would you say like are the most important qualities to have?
Patience, consistency, and honestly, like just a willingness to learn.
Okay.
Because, nobody's expecting you to like know everything right away. Like there are so many resources out there. Like
Yeah.
the stuff that you found for this deep dive,
Yeah.
and then trainers and vets and even just like online communities and stuff. There are so many people out there who can help.
That is very good to know.
Yeah.
It's a team effort.
Exactly. And it's also important to remember, like, every dog is an individual, right?
Right.
Like, what works for one poodle might not work for another poodle.
So you kind of have to be like adaptable and like willing to, figure it out as you go.
Exactly. And, like I said before, don't be afraid to ask for help.
This is true.
This is true. Like, everybody starts somewhere.
Exactly. Okay, so I know that we talked about socialization earlier, but I feel like it's so important that I kind of want to like touch on it again
Oh, for sure.
because it's not just like a one-time thing.
No. It's a lifelong thing.
Right.
And it's crucial for, like, all dogs, but especially for, like, smart, sensitive dogs, like poodles.
Okay, so it's not just about like preventing them from being like scared or aggressive. It's also about just like helping them have positive experiences
Exactly.
and be like confident.
Exactly. Like, remember Mookie the poodle? Like, they were really good about, like, taking him to puppy classes and introducing him to all sorts of different people and dogs and just, like, making sure that he was comfortable in different places.
Right, and it's never too late to start,
Of course.
right?
Never.
Like even if you adopt a poodle who's like a little bit older.
Totally. It might look a little different than, like, socializing a puppy, but it's definitely still possible.
Okay, that's good to know. So as we wrap up this deep dive into the wonderful world of miniature poodles,
Mm-hmm.
what are some like key takeaways that you hope I'll remember as I like, go on this journey?
Okay. Well, I think the most important thing to remember is that poodles, like, as fancy as they seem,
Right.
they're still dogs.
Yes.
Like, they need love, they need attention, they thrive on having, like, a really strong bond with their person. Like, remember all that cool stuff we learned about them? Like,
yeah.
their history as working dogs and how good they are at, like, dog sports and how much love they have to give.
They really are incredible dogs.
They are.
It's easy to kind of like get caught up in like the stereotypes and stuff, but
Totally.
at the end of the day, they just want to be loved.
Exactly. And honestly, they bring so much joy
They do.
into our lives.
And speaking of like joy, that kind of reminds me, we didn't really talk about this specifically, but it's something that like I feel like we've seen over and over again in poodles that are like really, really capable of like deep love.
Oh my gosh. Yes. That just comes through in like everything we watched and read, from like Mookie the poodle to poodles in popular culture. Those big soulful eyes, the way they wag their tails, like they're such snugglers.
They're not afraid to like show affection.
No, they're like, I love you. Here's all my love.
That's amazing.
Right. And that's like, honestly, it's what makes them such amazing companions.
They're true heart dogs.
They are.
It sounds like with the right information.
Yeah.
Obviously, a lot of love and care. Like a miniature poodle could be like a
Yeah.
really amazing addition to my life.
Well, I mean, from everything that you've said about, how you live your life and what you're looking for in a dog, I think a miniature poodle would be a really, really great fit.
So excited. I feel so much more prepared now after this deep dive to, like, you know, actually welcome a miniature poodle into my life and, like, give them a really good home.
That's awesome. And just remember, like, the learning never stops, right?
Right.
Like, there's always something new to discover about these dogs.
That's what makes it fun. It's like a lifelong adventure.
Exactly.
Thank you so much for doing this deep dive with me into the world of miniature poodles. I feel like I learned so much, and honestly, I just love them even more now.
It was my pleasure. And like I said, if you have any questions along the way, just let me know.
I will.
Happy poodle parenting.
Thanks again.